Alright, we got a BAXA. The complaint on this one is incorrect gear ratio, and we'll get going on this one. 10 millimeters on the speed sensor. Most all of this at the beginning is going to be 10 millimeters. Linear solenoid here. Another speed sensor there. Our shift solenoids. There's a little tab underneath this connector. You push up on it and slide it off its little bracket there. $17 millimeters on the banjo bolt for the cooler lines. We got 3 tubes that are underneath here. There are little filters in the end of it. When you go to rebuild it, you're going to make sure that those are not plugged up with any debris. The speed sensors you don't need to mark. They have to face this way. If you put this one up over here, it's going to be facing the wrong direction, so they only fit in one spot. Pressure switch, our second gear one is broken. It's pretty common for it to get broken when you're R&R guys pulling them out. They usually forget to disconnect it. Sometimes you get these washers in a kit, sometimes you don't. If you don't get them, you're going to have to flat file them or they will leak. And also on these pressure switches, the second gear one almost always is green on this one. There's different colors. You got black, brown, green, white, gray. All different ones are different pressures, and you got what's called stepped and non-stepped. These are both stepped and got a little raised area right here. Non-stepped is just flat right here. You want to make sure and get the same pressure switch that you took off, because like I say, they are different pressures, and if you put the wrong one on there, you're going to get codes for it. Alright. 10 millimeters on our neutral switch and the cover. There's little pieces of rubber going around here to seal this. They tend to get stuck up inside of here. Alright, 14 millimeters on the case half bolts. Pay attention to where your brackets came off of. Right here is our tag that tells us which tranny this is. This bolt right here, there's a bracket that comes off of it. Your ground wire comes down and connects onto here. My guy's known to take the linkage off the front here. If it's not been taken off, you're going to need to take that off before you can get the rest of this unit apart once you get the case halves on it. We're going to need to switch to the 1/2 inch impact anyway. Alright, there's several areas around here that you can get up underneath it and tap this cover up. Oh, forgot a bolt. You can leave your tubes in there for right now, just make sure and do not bend them. Pull our pivot pin and our park actuator out. Spring, stop. There's a little tab on this bolt that holds the linkage on. You have to bend it over. Sometimes you get these little brackets in the kit, sometimes you don't. 10 millimeter on that. Go ahead and take that loose. Pull it all the way down to manual low. We got our pieces here. Go just like that. Spring on the bottom hooks around this little pin that's down here. 10 millimeters on our reverse idler. Inch and 5/16. These two are right-handed. This one's left-handed. Dish washers. The dish goes down. Now, if you're going to do this way, you're going to have to be careful and smack it straight, otherwise you're going to screw your threads up. Give a little tap on them. You can use pullers on this if you want to pull this apart. I just use 2 heel bars. You do have to be careful, not chip your teeth. If you do, it's really not that big of a deal. Just be gentle working this out. If you do chip the teeth, usually it's just a little bit right down in here. You can take a Scotch-Brite wheel and just buff that until the chip is gone. you can actually chip a tooth of a gear almost all the way to the center before it'll cause any problems, as long as it's not on every tooth. Now we can get our reverse idler out. Oh, come on now. Put me in that way. Because we're on camera. Usually pops right out of there. Here we go. A little bearing on it. Pull your reverse idler back. Here again, you can use a puller on it if you want to. I just get an air hammer with the bit on it, so it can hit it right there. Alright, I've been doing this for a long time now. It's got me some zip ties. I've been using them for this same set right here for probably 10 or 12 years now. Once they start getting worn out, you just pull up on the tab right there, and usually it's good to go for a while. If it gets to where it will not hold, I just go ahead and toss it, but I've only had to toss a few. So I just zip tie the whole thing together. We got a spot right here underneath the case that we can pull up on. Over here by where the dipstick goes in, there's a spot that you can hammer up on. Just get that up. Your reverse idler's gonna fall out. You got tubes that are up inside of here. Make sure and pull them out and put them back where they were. Big thing to look out on these units is these bearings right here like to eat up, so look real good at your races and your bearings. Check your case bearings. Usually these are in really good shape unless this bearing right here is bad. We got 3 dowel pins that go into the case. We have another tab that we got to bend back over here. $10mm on this. Pull your gear up. We have a bearing. Look at your teeth real close on here. It's not real common for these to eat up, but they do eat up where the slider goes up inside of there. So look at your slider real closely. If this is eat up, usually your fork is bad. This one's kind of eat up on the back side here. So we're going to need a slider. We're going to need our gear. Pay attention to how this hub comes off of here. Recess side faces up. On your slider, the step faces into that gear right there. Bearing and our gear. I just zip tie this together again. And then separate it so it all gets clean. Look real close at this bearing right here. Likes to come apart, chew this gear up, and that bearing up there. Cage bearing, flat bearing, and our selective washer. Zip tie this all together. Usually all this stuff is in real good shape unless they just kept trying to drive it when it's had real bad problems. So we got a washer, flat bearing, our gear, 2 cage bearings, flat bearing. Pull our drums off. Leave that drum there for the momentary. Gonna need a pair of snap ring pliers. Pull our snap ring off. I have our retainer, 2 half moon clips. I leave these out of the small parts basket. They like to fly away and get lost. Our washer, flat bearing, gear, cage bearing, another flat bearing. Check our main shaft. Usually all this is in really good shape. Do need to pay attention to your teeth here. I've only seen one, but it was worn out right up in here. We have, it looks like these clutches are bad. Get this gear out of here. Alright. Did nick the gear just a tad right there, but I think we'll be okay. We got a flat bearing, cage bearing, another flat bearing, and our race. On our counter shaft, there's no need to take all this apart. Just, you know, look at your gears and make sure that they're in good shape. Usually all this is in good shape. It's these bearings right here that like to go bad. It's kind of so we'll put bearings in there, bearings and races, because it will not make it past the warranty period. And look at our spider gears and make sure that they're not all eat up. Make sure our pin is not coming out. Used to be a real common problem with the Honda pins coming out, not so much anymore. Take our drums apart in a momentary. Go ahead and get our valve body off. Pay attention to where all your tubes are. There's a bunch of them. See if your housing here is ring grooved from the shaft there. Looks okay. Every layer is going to have 2 dowel pins. Our stator looks good. Stop. Separator plate. These little filters, I just throw these things away. We have a check valve and spring. Go ahead and pull these up here. Accumulators, I just leave it all together till I'm ready to clean it. three 12 millimeters here. This is where you're going to need to look. It's the other area that's fairly bad about getting chewed up. You got another check valve and check ball and spring in here. But you're going to want to look on the back side here, and it's probably not going to show up very well, but this is chewed up, and it's fairly common when you get metal going through here for this to chew up right here. So we're going to need this body, and they're going to need these numbers off of here, and see what our gears look like. I think the gears are going to be okay. We may need to put a set in there. I think they'll be fine once we get to the body here. Check the clearance on them, make sure everything's okay. Usually these bearings are fine. Go ahead and let that drain. And you do your drums however you want to. This is how I do mine. I mark one side of the drum, so I know that this side, the set goes on this side, and then I keep it all together. I can figure it out, it's just quicker to do it this way. So yeah, our clutches are toast. Took out our steels. Pressure plate's okay, but our steels are gone. Came close to taking out the pressure plate. I think we'll probably be ordering a kit with steels on this one. I do the same thing on this drum. Some of these have steel pistons, some have molded pistons. This one's got the molded pistons. I would recommend you replace them. Yeah, we're going to need steels. Pressure plate's still okay. Every single steel in this thing. Alright, so just zip tie this stuff together like the rest of it. All right. Let me get this one written up, and we'll be back. All right, we got our BAXA master kit with steels and pistons, filter, both diff bearings and races, the main valve body, slider, fourth gear on the countershaft, second gear pressure switch. My torque converter code is PGA. On most all these Hondas, I would recommend that you put a cooler. You really ought to put a radiator on them also, but at least have a cooler put on there. That's the fix for them. Converters like to burn up on these things, so that is how you fix that problem. So we'll get this sold, and we'll get the rebuild done on it, and we'll be back for that.